People talk about life changing in an instant like it's a lightning strike, sudden, loud, and obvious. But mine began to change with a sound so small I almost didn't hear it. It was the sound of cardboard shifting against fabric. A box settling in someone's arms. Funny, right? How something so insignificant can be the thread that unravels everything. I'd come home late that night. Later than usual, but not late enough to raise questions. Not that anyone was asking anymore. My wife and I, Sharon, we'd become experts at avoiding the soft landmines in a shared space. No fights, no passion, just carefully navigated silence. Two ghosts haunting the same house. The lights were low. The air had that metallic smell it gets before a storm. I'd kicked off my shoes, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, and poured myself a drink I didn't really want, just a habit now, like brushing my teeth. I just sunk into the cracked leather chair by the window when I heard it. Not a knock. Not yet. Just that faint cardboard sound. Then 3 quiet taps. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door. And there she was. She looked like someone halfway through a decision. One foot still in the world that made sense, the other already slipping into something unexpected. Her hair was wind-tangled, her cheeks flushed from the cold or the walk, and her eyes, God, her eyes, were the kind that don't ask permission before they start reading you. "Hi," she said. No nerves. Just a calm curiosity. "Are you Robert?" "No one calls me Robert. Hasn't happened since my high school diploma was handed to me by a principal who didn't know my face." "I go by Rob," I said, cautious. "Can I help you?" She glanced down at the box in her arms. It was small. Ordinary. But she looked at it like it might explode. "This showed up on my doorstep." "I think it's for you," she said. "GPS led me here, so maybe a delivery mix-up?" I took the box. Our fingers brushed briefly. Nothing dramatic. But I remember the warmth of her skin like it was branded into mine. She smiled then. Not the polite kind. The kind that folds in on itself, like she already knew something I didn't. "I'm Claire," she said, as if the name mattered. As if I'd need it later. And then she turned, stepped off my porch, and walked into the dark like it meant nothing. It should have been the end of it. I should have closed the door. Should have forgotten her name, tossed the box on the counter, and gone back to my chair, my whiskey, my dull ache of a life. But I didn't. Because something about her, something I couldn't name yet, had cracked the seal on a part of me I'd buried years ago. And all it took was a stranger, a box, and the sound of cardboard shifting in her arms. I stood there for a while after she left, just standing in the doorway like some fool who forgot what houses are for. The night had turned colder. The kind of cold that bites, not because it's freezing, but because it reminds you you're alone. I looked down at the box. No markings, no shipping label. Just my name, Robert Whitman, written in black ink across the top in looping cursive. Not typed. Not printed. Handwritten. I stepped inside, locked the door behind me, and carried the thing into the kitchen like it might start ticking. The box was sealed with a single strip of clear tape. No branding. No return address. Just the name J. Whitmore scribbled in the corner. I hadn't heard that name in over 15 years. Back then, I was a different man. I still believed in clean lines, cause and effect, right and wrong, promises made meaning something. The name Whitmore belonged to an old professor of mine. Jonathan Whitmore. Philosophy. He had a voice like gravel and eyes like a hawk, sharp, tireless. He used to say things like, "You don't learn who you are by what you believe. You learn who you are by what you betray." Hell of a thing to hear at 19. I slit the tape with a steak knife, hands steady but heart tapping a little faster now. Inside the box was an envelope, thick and cream-colored, sealed with red wax. And beneath it, something wrapped in a piece of linen. I opened the envelope first. The letter inside was written in that same looping handwriting. And I swear to you, I swear on every breath I have left, I recognized it before I even read the words. Claire. I read the first line aloud. "If you're reading this, then she found you. Or you found each other." Either way, it means the wheels started turning again. It wasn't signed. My pulse started dancing. I wasn't scared exactly. But I had that sensation you get when you walk into a room you thought was empty and find someone already there. I unwrapped the linen next. Inside was a pocket watch. Old. Heavy. Brass, tarnished at the edges with strange engravings along the rim. Latin, maybe? Or something older. The second I touched it, something shifted in the air. I don't believe in magic. Never have. But I do believe in weight. In resonance. And that watch, it hummed. Not audibly. Not like a machine. It was subtler than that. Like the way you can feel someone staring at you even when your back's turned. And just like that, the room didn't feel like mine anymore. That's when I realized what Claire had said earlier. She didn't live in the building. The GPS led her there. The package was on her doorstep. But she walked it to mine. Why would someone do that? Unless they weren't just delivering something. Unless she was part of the delivery. I stared at the envelope again. Then at the watch. And the question came, sudden and unwelcome. What if this wasn't a mistake? What if Claire didn't knock on my door by accident? What if I was always meant to open it? I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. I sat with that pocket watch in my hand until the whiskey was gone and the light coming through the window turned from blue to gray. It had weight, yes, but also heat. Like it had been resting in someone's palm just moments before it reached mine. I kept turning it over, tracing the engraving. It read, Omnia mutantur nihil interit. Everything changes, nothing perishes. I didn't know if it was a riddle or a warning. Around 5:30 in the morning, when the birds started clearing their throats and the garbage trucks made their rounds, I finally set the thing down and opened my laptop. Searched J. Whitmore. No recent results. Dead probably. Would have been in his 80s by now. But that didn't explain the letter. The watch. The girl. Claire. The name felt strange in my mouth, like a word from a dream you try to repeat after waking. I didn't know her last name. Didn't know where she lived. Hell, I didn't even know what had made her come up those stairs instead of just tossing the box in the bin like anyone else. But her face. I couldn't forget it. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. It was something quieter than that. Something in her expression, a kind of alertness I hadn't seen in years. Like she was tuned into a frequency the rest of us had forgotten existed. And her voice. It stayed with me. Not just the sound, but the feel of it. Like rain on dry ground. Like something waking up inside me. Around noon, I went outside and walked the block where I thought she might have come from. Not sure what I was expecting, that she'd be standing on a corner with a second box, waiting for round two? I felt ridiculous. But still, I walked. Every stoop. Every apartment entrance. Nothing. By 3 o'clock, I was back at home, staring at the watch again. And then, because I'm a man who still believes in long shots, I slipped it into my pocket and went downstairs. The super, Gerald, was sitting in the hallway fiddling with a busted light fixture. I asked him casually, hey, any idea who lives in 810? He wiped his hands on a rag. 810's empty. What about 811? Older couple. Quiet. Definitely not her. You see anyone come by yesterday? Woman about my age. Long brown hair. Maybe carrying a box. He squinted at me. Didn't notice. Sorry, pal. I nodded, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered because something had changed in me. Not just since last night, long before that. Claire didn't break me open. She just found the crack and pushed a little. That evening, I opened the envelope again. Reread the lines. If you're reading this, then she found you. Or you found each other. Either way, it means the wheels started turning again. Underneath that, in smaller handwriting. She doesn't know yet. But she will. And that was the moment I realized something I hadn't let myself admit before. She hadn't been confused. She hadn't knocked on the wrong door. She was looking for me. She just didn't know why yet. That night I dreamed about her. Not in the way you might think, not lust or longing. It was quieter than that. Stranger. We were standing in a hallway, her back to me. Light was leaking through cracks in the walls. Everything felt like it was breathing. She turned and said, "You're not late this time." I woke up gasping. Not because it was terrifying, but because for one flickering second I believed her. I didn't know what I was late for, but I believed it mattered. I carried the feeling into the morning, through a shower I barely felt and toast I didn't finish. My wife, Sharon, was already gone. Probably at the library where she worked part-time now. Our schedules barely overlapped these days. We still talked. About bills, groceries, her sister's hip surgery. But that was it. It's strange, the way marriages erode, not in crashes, but in the soft hum of time passing. I didn't tell her about Claire. Or the box. Or the watch. I didn't even consider it. Not because I was hiding something. Not yet. But because I knew she wouldn't understand. She would have looked at me with that measured concern, that wife mask of polite skepticism. Are you sure you're not just bored, Rob? And maybe I was. But boredom doesn't hum in your pocket. It doesn't send strangers to your door with handwritten notes and watches that feel alive. By afternoon, I'd convinced myself to let it go. Just a fluke. A glitch in the matrix. A beautiful woman, a box, a name from my past. It didn't have to mean anything. But the world, it tilted. Little things at first. A crow landed on my windowsill and just stared at me. Didn't move. Didn't blink. My phone started glitching, apps opening by themselves, my alarm skipping a day. At one point, I was driving to the store when a song came on the radio, one I hadn't heard in decades. Some obscure jazz piece that Whitmore used to play during lectures of all things. I pulled over and just sat there listening to the saxophone spiral through my memory. It felt like the universe was nudging me, saying, "You're awake now. Pay attention." So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called an old friend. James Marlowe. Jimmy used to be my roommate in college. Brilliant guy, strange as hell, worked in tech now. I hadn't spoken to him in maybe 6 years. He picked up on the second ring. "Rob Whitman, alive and breathing." "Who died?" "No one yet," I said. "But I think something's trying to be born." He was silent for a beat. Then, "Okay, I'm intrigued." That took less than 10 seconds. "Tell me everything." So I did. The knock. The box. The note. The pocket watch. "Claire." He whistled low. "You think it's all connected?" "I feel like it is." "Then don't ignore it. Even if it wrecks everything?" Jimmy sighed. "Maybe it's not about wrecking. Maybe it's about waking up." There was that word again. Awake. That night, I sat at the window with the watch ticking softly in my palm. And I said something out loud, just 3 words. A prayer. A wish. A dare. Let her come. The second time she knocked, it was raining. Not a gentle rain, this was the kind that soaked you through in seconds. The kind that made the city smell like rust and wet pavement. The kind that made memories stir. I heard it through the downpour, 3 knocks, like before. Sure. Steady. As if the universe had handed her instructions. I opened the door. She was drenched, shivering, holding her hair back from her face with one hand. The other clutched a manila folder, its corners starting to curl from the wet. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside without saying a word. Claire walked into my house like she'd done it before. Not casual, exactly, just right? Like someone returning to a place they'd only visited in dreams. I grabbed a towel from the hallway closet, handed it to her. She smiled. That same quiet smile. The one that didn't just appear on her lips but behind her eyes. "Thanks," she said, dabbing at her forehead. "Sorry about the surprise." Again. "You always show up in storms?" "Only when it matters." That answer sat heavy between us. I didn't ask what she meant. Not yet. She glanced at the box on the counter, the one she'd delivered days before. Still there. Unmoved. "You opened it." I did. "And?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out the watch. Held it out like it might solve a puzzle just by being seen. Her eyes went wide. Not with recognition, but with that same strange pull I'd felt when I first touched it. She stepped forward, slowly, like the thing might bite. "I don't know why," she said softly, "but that looks familiar." "It should. You were part of its delivery." I didn't know what was in the box. "I believe you." Claire opened the manila folder. Inside were photographs. Old ones. Yellowing at the edges. Some were of places, hillsides, train stations, and old library. But a few were of people. One in particular made the breath catch in my chest. It was Whitmore. Young. Younger than when I knew him. Standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. But it was the man on the other side of him that made my stomach flip. It was me. Not exactly me. But close enough to make my skin crawl. The man in the photo had my face, so close it could have been a still from a movie I didn't remember filming. Claire saw my reaction. "I found these in a safety deposit box yesterday. The key was mailed to me. No note. Just a postmark from New York. Why would you get it?" She met my eyes. I think someone's pulling us both into something." The rain outside deepened as if to echo that thought. I set the photo down and stared at the watch. Its hands had started moving again, tick, 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 after being still the whole day. "Claire," I said, "do you believe in past lives?" She didn't answer. Not right away. But then she stepped closer. "Just a breath between us now." "I don't know," she whispered. "But I think I remember you. There are moments you live through, and then there are moments that live through you." This was one of the latter. I stood in my kitchen holding a photograph of a man who looked exactly like me, taken decades before I was born. A woman I barely knew was looking at me like I just stepped out of a dream she wasn't ready to admit she'd had. And the damn watch was ticking again. Claire and I sat across from each other at the small round table by the window. The rain had slowed to a whisper like the world was leaning in to listen. I couldn't take my eyes off the photo. The man, my double, wore a dark coat. 3-piece suit. He was standing on the steps of what looked like a university building beside Whitmore and the unnamed woman. The woman, she looked like Claire. Not exactly, but the resemblance was uncanny. Her posture. Her smile. Her eyes. Claire saw it too. Her fingers trembled as she traced the edge of the photo. "This is impossible," she said. "Is it?" I asked, because something in me, some half-buried part I'd ignored for years, was starting to believe. Not in fantasy. Not in ghosts or magic. but in the idea that time doesn't always behave. That sometimes it folds, sometimes it loops, and sometimes it remembers. I reached for the envelope from the box again. There was something odd about it I hadn't noticed before. A second sheet of paper, thinner, pressed tight against the back of the wax-sealed letter. It had gotten stuck, moisture maybe. I peeled it away carefully. A second note. Short. Typed this time. There are things we're meant to do more than once. You'll know what to do when the time comes. Don't let the clock fool you, it's not about time. It's about choice. Claire read it over my shoulder. Who wrote this? She whispered. I don't know. But I think they knew us. Know us. We were quiet after that. The silence between us wasn't awkward, it was charged like the moment before a storm breaks. Then Claire looked at me and her expression changed. Softened. Like she was peeling back a layer she didn't even realize she'd been wearing. I keep seeing flashes, she said. Not dreams. Not memories. More like echoes. Me in places I've never been. A man's voice calling my name. Latin phrases I shouldn't know. Same, I admitted. I've been dreaming of a hallway. You in it. You always turn just as I wake up. She looked away, then back. I feel like I've known you longer than I've been alive. There was a long pause. And then, without thinking, without permission, I reached across the table and took her hand. The moment I did, the watch in my pocket started to hum. A low, steady vibration. Claire gasped. Do you feel that? I nodded. Yeah. Rob, she said, her voice trembling now. What if we're not just remembering? What if we're continuing something? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because deep down, I already knew. This wasn't about a chance meeting. This wasn't about coincidence. This was a story that had started long before us. And for better or worse, it had found its way back into our hands. We didn't speak for a while after that. Not because there was nothing to say, but because we both knew we were crossing a threshold. It wasn't just intrigue anymore. It wasn't even fear. It was recognition. A kind of internal shaking. Like parts of us that had long been asleep were finally stirring, blinking against the light. Claire leaned back in her chair, eyes fixed on nothing, her thumb tracing circles against the back of my hand. I used to have this recurring dream when I was a kid, she said. Always the same. I'm standing on a platform wearing gloves and a long coat. It's snowing. A man walks up to me and takes my hand, but I can't see his face. And just before the train comes, he says, not yet. We don't get to finish it yet. I felt something seize in my chest. I've seen that too, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Not the same dream, but close. A train. The cold. A parting. Claire blinked, but she didn't look surprised. It's like we're reading the same story from different pages. There was something beautiful and terrifying about that. I stood up and paced the room, the ticking of the watch louder now in my pocket, syncing with the beat of my thoughts. I grabbed the photo again, the one of my supposed double. There were numbers etched faintly on the back. Not a date. Not coordinates. Just 5 digits, 48216. Claire squinted. That's a zip code. Detroit, I said, already reaching for my laptop. Southwest side. I pulled up a map. The area wasn't unfamiliar. Industrial. Worn. The kind of place history had touched and moved on from. There was a red dot on the screen for an old building, abandoned, no reviews, no photos. Just a name, the Whitmore Institute for Temporal Studies. Claire leaned in close. That can't be a coincidence. I stared at it, my heart thudding. What if that's where it happened? I said, whatever it is we keep seeing, whatever was started. What if that's where it began? Her voice was quiet. Or where it ended. The rain outside had stopped. The sky had that strange, hollow light you get after a storm, everything brighter, sharper, like someone turned the contrast up. Claire looked at me then. Not just at me, but through me, like she was trying to remember something important about me. Something she'd once known by heart. Rob, she said slowly. Do you think we were in love? The question hit like a chord struck too hard. It echoed. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. Because love was a word I hadn't let myself feel in years. Not since Sharon and I quietly stopped holding hands in public. Not since our silences got longer than our conversations. But this, whatever this was with Claire, it felt ancient. It felt like music you didn't know you remembered the lyrics to until the chorus came and your whole body just knew. I think, I said carefully, we never stopped. And she didn't argue. She just reached for the watch, still humming softly, and whispered, then maybe it's time we found out why. We didn't talk much on the drive. The highway stretched out like a long breath neither of us could exhale. Just the occasional click of the turn signal, the low hum of the tires on wet pavement, and the feeling stronger than anything else that something needed to be remembered. The address led us to a 2-story brick building with boarded-up windows and weeds creeping out of the foundation. It looked like a place that had been forgotten on purpose. There was no sign, no marker, just rusted metal numbers barely clinging to the frame, 1435. Claire stepped out first. The wind tugged at her coat. I watched her walk ahead, her pace slow, steady. Like she'd been here before. I followed, staying a few feet behind. There was a side entrance that looked less decayed than the front, just a rusted handle and a warped door. No lock. Claire hesitated for a second, then pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick. Stale, like old paper and raindamp wood. The kind of place where stories go to die. We stepped into a hallway. There were filing cabinets pushed against the walls. Faded posters peeling from corkboards. A plaque on the floor, face down. I flipped it over. Whitmore Institute, Research Wing B. Claire turned on her phone light and led us deeper into the building. We passed empty rooms. Desks. A toppled bookshelf. The smell of mildew stronger now. But the farther we went, the more that strange feeling grew in my chest, not fear, not awe, something else. Something closer to recognition. Then we reached it. A room at the end of the hall. Door barely hanging on its hinges. Claire stopped in the threshold. I stepped past her and looked inside. There, in the center of the room, was a table. On it, a thick ledger. Yellowed pages, brittle with age. Claire approached it like it might vanish. She opened it. Her fingers moved gently, reverently. Each page held names, dates, notes. Not research, not records, it read like a logbook. A kind of register. Then she stopped. She pointed. My name. Robert Whitman. No date of birth. Just a date, April 14th, 2005. And a line written beneath it in handwriting that made my spine go stiff. The subject has forgotten. Memory suppressed. But contact will trigger reevaluation. She will be the key. I sat down slowly, like the ground might shift if I moved too fast. Claire kept reading. There was a second name, right beneath mine. Claire Hallberg. Initial signs of recognition present. Further interaction required. History between them remains latent but active. She closed the book. I didn't know this place existed, she said. But you came anyway. I had to. We sat in that room for a long time. The walls crumbling around us. The weight of words we didn't write pressing in. It didn't feel magical. It felt tragic. Honest. Like stumbling into a chapter of your life you didn't know had been erased. I looked at Claire. Do you think this means we're supposed to? She stopped me with a look. Not harsh. Just tired. I don't want fate, Rob. I want truth. Even if it's messy. And I realized then, as I looked at this woman sitting beside me in a forgotten building in Detroit, that maybe what we'd found wasn't destiny or reincarnation or some mystical cycle. Maybe we just missed something the first time. A moment. A chance. And life, in its strange, clumsy way, was giving us one more look. Not to fix the past, but to finally understand it. We drove back in silence again, but it was a different kind this time. Not avoidance. Not confusion. It was the silence that happens when your heart is full of questions you don't want to rush. Claire dozed off somewhere outside Toledo, her head tilted toward the window, hair catching the amber light. I stole glances at her when I could. Not because I was trying to read her, but because I knew I was looking at a moment that wouldn't last. You ever feel that? When you're in something and you know it's temporary, too real to be forever, too deep to ignore. When we pulled into my driveway, it was just past midnight. I killed the engine and sat there for a second, key still in the ignition, hands heavy on the wheel. Claire stirred. Rubbed her eyes. We're back. I nodded. Yeah. She looked at the house, then at me. Want me to go? I opened my mouth to say yes. That would have been the safe answer. The right one. But what came out instead was, no. Come in. Just for a bit. The house was dark. Sharon was asleep or pretending to be. We moved quietly, two shadows slipping past the weight of the walls. I offered her tea. She asked for water. We ended up in the living room. The box was still on the counter. The photo. The letter. The watch. Like the past was waiting for us to say something new. Claire sat on the edge of the couch, her hands folded in her lap. Do you think we're part of some experiment? I shook my head. No. I think we were two people who were meant to meet and didn't. Until now. She gave a faint smile. Is that worse or better? I didn't know. I sat beside her, not touching, just there. I used to think love was a straight line, I said. You meet someone, you fall, you build a life. But I've been married 13 years and sometimes I wonder if we just built a house with no doors. Claire didn't speak right away. When she did, her voice was soft. Sometimes I feel like I've spent my whole life brushing past people I was supposed to meet more fully. I looked at her. She looked at me. And there was no kiss. No music. Just two people sitting in the soft ache of almost. Rob, she said. What happens now? I took a deep breath. I don't know, but I think it starts with telling the truth. She nodded. To your wife. To myself first. Claire stood, took her glass to the sink. I followed her to the door. She paused, hand on the knob. Do you regret it? Letting me in? No, I said. I regret not meeting you 10 years ago. But I don't regret tonight. She opened the door. The night was cool. Quiet. I think we'll see each other again, she said. I know we will. And then she was gone. Just like that. But something in me had shifted. Not into love. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But into truth. And that, for the first time in a long while, felt like something worth waking up for. I told Sharon the next morning. Not everything, there wasn't a language for all of it yet, but enough. Enough to make her stop stirring her coffee and finally look at me, really look. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table like we had 1,000 times before. Only this time something was different. No TV murmuring in the background. No phones between us. No calendar reminders buzzing. Just two people who'd forgotten how to be honest with each other, and one of them trying to remember. I met someone, I said, eyes locked on the scar in the wood grain between us. Not in that way, but maybe in a way that matters even more. She didn't say anything. Just waited. I told her about the knock. The box. The photo. Detroit. Claire. I told her the truth, not the drama of it, not the feeling, just the facts. When I finished, she sat back slowly, like the words had added weight to her body. You didn't sleep with her? No. But you wanted to. I didn't lie. Yes. She didn't cry. That somehow hurt more. You and I, she said, her voice quiet and calm, we've been roommates for the better part of 5 years. I know. I used to wonder if you were cheating. Then I stopped wondering. Not because I trusted you, but because I just didn't care anymore. That landed in my chest like a stone. I think we stopped showing up a long time ago, she said. We just didn't have the guts to say it out loud. We sat in silence for a long time. The kind of silence that feels like a decision being made even if no one speaks. Eventually she stood, picked up her coffee. I'm going to go stay at my sister's for a bit. Okay. She walked halfway out of the kitchen, then turned back. I'm not angry, she said. But I hope you figure out what this really is. Whether it's about her, or you, or just something you missed about yourself. She left without slamming the door. And I sat there for a long time after, staring at the chair she'd just vacated. The truth is, Claire didn't cause this. She didn't break my marriage or steal my attention. She just reminded me that I used to feel more. More awake. More curious. More alive. She was a mirror I hadn't looked into in years. And when I finally did, I barely recognized the man staring back. A week later, I saw her again. Claire. At a cafe near the river, unplanned. Or maybe not. Maybe certain paths just start circling the same point once they've crossed. She smiled when she saw me. That same quiet smile that had cracked something open in me the night she knocked. I sat down across from her. I told her, I said. Claire nodded like she already knew. I think I was looking for you, I added. Maybe I was too, she said. And we sat there, not lovers, not saviors. Just two people, a little bruised, a little better, trying to listen to the parts of themselves they'd silenced for too long. We didn't hold hands. We didn't make promises. But we did sit still. We did breathe. We did see each other. And sometimes that's where a real beginning starts. Not with fire, but with truth. And a knock you weren't expecting.